All right. And so for today's event, we have 1.5 resource development credits available. The requirement is that you stay for the whole event. So, and then afterwards, you will receive a survey that you'll need to complete. And that basically puts you in there for us to process your resource development credit and send you your certificate. Kind of the same process, just making sure that everybody is aware that you have to stay for the whole thing to be able to be eligible for those resource development credits. So without further intros, I would like to introduce to you Krista Martin. She's an MBA, CPCC, and PCC, and the president and founder of Make Your Mark. A sought-after business growth strategist and coach, and she teaches coaches how to attract ideal clients, make more money, and create a bigger impact. She is the founder of Six Figure Impact Academy and takes a stand for helping her clients build thriving six-figure or multi-six-figure businesses. So we are excited to hear from you today, Krista, for all the goodness and tips and tricks that we'll put in our bag to leave with today. So I turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Becky and Jen and everybody here. I'm thrilled to be with you. And I shared with Becky and Jen right before we jumped on that I just made a huge change in my life. I moved from a PC my entire life to a Mac. And I'm breathing deeply as I say that. So I may ask for your grace or patience a little bit as we're shifting back and forth, or just 2 slides today. I've been practicing like crazy, but I'm interested to hear real quick, who here is a Mac person? And if you don't mind to share in the chat, or a PC person, because I know sometimes people are like PC or die, and other people are just the same, or like, or they'll say Mac, for life, that kind of thing too. So I'm just totally curious at this, and thank you for the kind words there, because it is it's just been a fun thing looking at my own brain. I'm like, I don't like change, but I'm a coach. I'm supposed to like change, but so that whole banter back and forth. Okay, so lots of good PC and Mac, and definitely former PC recovery. I like that, Becky. That's very, very funny. So my intention is that we will have lots of fun, and we're going to get lots of insights and really talk about how to grow your coaching business today. Mac or PC, I hope everybody is wildly successful in their coaching business. That will not hold you back from speaking either way, whichever choice you decide. And so I'm going to just go ahead and hit the magic button here in 1 second, and then we should be able to do a slide. Let's see. Okay. And actually, I'm not quite, well, I will do a slide share or a screen share, and then I will bring my slide over. How about that? All right. So you see my background? Look, we're getting there, people. I'm learning. All right. So let me know if you don't mind with a thumbs up if you can see. Okay, we can all go home now. It's Friday the 13th, and we have successful slide sharing. So, really what we're going to talk about today is how to speak your way to more clients, income, and impact. And, we're going to look at a bunch of different things, and we created an action guide that basically is a cheat sheet for taking your notes on. So if you want to grab that, if it's possible, Becky or Jen, to toss that into the chat, that's wonderful. If not, you can type in makeyourmark.com/ICF High Country, and it'll pull the PDF up right there. So basically, for those of you that are like me and like to have all my notes super organized. But the cool thing is, even if you don't grab it, I know everybody here is incredibly smart. We can take really great notes on an old-fashioned piece of paper as well. So my invitation to you today, and while we're together, is to really be here with us. You're not here by an accident. You are here for a reason. And to really hear me when I share that your business, your clients, and you really deserve to have a successful business, to have the breakthroughs that we're going to talk about today. So, if you're open to a breakthrough today, raise your hand, or actually let's do something fun and throw your favorite emoji in the chat, because that's always good too. Let's see. So I'm going to just look and see if anybody here is open for some breakthroughs. Okay, we've got some good ones, I see. And Becky, you are always so full of positive energy. I knew you were going to do the party emoji there. So one of the things I've learned about breakthroughs is that when we look for them, we find them. So when you have a breakthrough today in any class or anything that you're participating in, and I love these emojis. These are super fun. Some of them I didn't even know existed. What I invite you to do is look for your breakthrough. So to really look at, not only how can I implement this information, how can I integrate it, but to really look at one of the things that I was super guilty of doing for a very long time is I was busy knowing, but not doing. And what I mean is I was actually applying to be in a coaching program, and I said, oh, but I should be on tier 3 on that level of what you need to know. And they were like, no, but your results are here, Krista. And I said, but I know all that. And she lovingly reminded me that to know and not do is to not yet know. And that I didn't like, because I love to learn. And so what I'm inviting you to do is even look at, where are you busy knowing, but not doing? And that'll shine some light. And then if you say, Chris, I already know this, we'll look to and say, okay, what does it look like to take that, 10 degrees further? So we're going to have lots of good stuff today, and you are in the absolute right place today. If you're speaking currently to grow your business, but you're not consistently filling your coaching programs to capacity, you're also in the right place today if you're tired of the roller coaster ride of the feast or famine cycle. So you feel like your bank account does these loop-de-loops that we see here. You might be like this poor lady on the screen where you are literally exhausted because you are putting so much time, spirit, energy into your business, but you're not seeing the payoff. And payoff is being able to work with these great clients so you get to help them create their breakthroughs. You may feel overwhelmed like this person does here with all the options to market your coaching business. You're also in the right place today if you know in your heart that you're meant to succeed, and it's not supposed to be this hard. You know that you're destined to do this work in a really big way. So share in, whether in the chat or if you want to raise your hand in the on your Zoom screen, and just let me know if this resonates with you. If you're like, Krista, yeah, at least maybe all of those resonate, or at least a few of them do, and you're in the right place and you're really ready to get the breakthroughs that you're looking for. And so the great news that I do have for you too is that regardless of what you've tried before, regardless of what worked, regardless of what didn't work, we're going to call that so last year. So that's so 2022. We're not even going to worry about that. So if you've been on stages and not gotten clients, that's okay. I'm going to show you probably why that happened. If you're saying, Krista, I want to get on more stages, I love sharing my message, and I would love to, really impact more people through my message, you're in the right place today. And we're going to show you a framework that likely has been the reason not having that may have kept you from making the impact you're really wanting to make. So we'll go through a ton. And as you can tell, I talk fast, so we'll get lots of good actionable content today. And really, we're going to look at why speaking is the fastest way to consistently fill your one-on-one client roster or your group programs. We're going to look at common mistakes coaches make and what to do instead. We're also going to look at the most important part, which is often overlooked part of your speaking strategy. And of course, so much more. Just like I love these little pictures of the kids. And so we're going to cover a lot more goodness too. And Becky shared with you my background and who I am, but you may still be saying, okay, Krista, who are you? And this is my attempt at humor, saying, I'm so glad you asked, because you didn't really ask. But I want you to know that, I can be trusted as someone to help guide you on this journey that we're going on together today, because really what we're going to talk about today is the exact process, the exact strategy that allowed us to grow, Make Your Mark to grow from, I was about at $40,000 a year. And I was working full time, left my job, or they downsized. And I said, all right, am going all in. And I said, I'm going to find where I can share my message in a very intentional way. Up to then, I'd been kind of scattershot with not very intentional marketing. In 12 months, the business grew from $40,000 to over 220. We then leveraged the same strategy to hit $500,000, and then a few years later, hit the $1 million mark for the first time. So regardless of where you are in your journey, this system can work. And my favorite part is that it can be simple. It's not, we don't have to worry about algorithm changes or, the complicated shenanigans that the internet can try to do to us. And I probably shouldn't say that because I don't want to jinx our connection and everything that we have set up here today. But really what I want you also to see in that, because one of my self-imposed responsibilities on any webinar is to help make your brain wiggle. And what I mean by that is, let me know if you resonate with the story, or maybe you've had a belief that your growth has to be incremental. I know I came from corporate and I thought, you work really hard this year, you make this, you work your butt off, maybe you get a 3% or 5% raise. So I really was in that incremental mindset. And so I thought it has to be slow. And one of my goals is to help you see it doesn't have to be slow. It can be, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to go from 40 to 220 in 12 months or something else, you can absolutely create that. So, what I'm really excited to do is help you see the exact process that took me a whole long time to figure out. And we have a lot of time together today, but not nearly enough, even for all the fast talking that I do. So you'll walk away with tons of action steps you can take. But at the end of the session, I will give you a free way to continue the conversation if you feel inspired to do so. If not, totally great. You're going to be, I think even though it's Friday afternoon, you're going to be running off after this session, just getting in gear with how you can really start implementing what we're covering today. So all of that to say, I would love to see in the chat and how you would feel if you knew exactly how to consistently bring in 3 to 5 new clients each month through speaking. Like, what would be different for you? And how would you feel if you knew, okay, I do this and I get 3 to 5 clients, or if I do that twice, I can get 6 to 10 clients? What would be different about how you feel, maybe the results that you're creating, and just throw that into the chat when you get a chance. I'm going to grab a quick swig of water real quick. Oh, I love this. Empowering. I would speak more. Amazing. I would feel energized. Yes. A sense of security. Absolutely. And this is what, really we want to anchor into, is ditching that stress. I see that comment too, empowered instead of, stressed, is to really see that it can be simple. It can happen quickly when you follow the simple framework we'll talk about today. And I see this would be fulfilling. That those are just magical words, and the movement is happening. So you're starting to really see your message take its impact or create an impact. So when we're thinking about any strategy that we talk about, any strategy on the planet, we want to think about, okay, how does this align for you as a business owner? Because if I told you, here's this Facebook ad strategy, and you hate Facebook, for example, that's not going to be a good match, because we want to make sure it aligns with your values and how you want to grow your business. So I'll share with you some of the top reasons to speak to grow your business. And in fact, I'd love to, I'll actually flip it for a quick question to hear from you. I'll give you the first one on here, that you can fill your coaching programs and your client roster. What are some other reasons that you think speaking could be a great method for you to market your coaching business and reach more ideal clients? Just because you signed up for this webinar for a reason, meaning you're interested in speaking. So something about speaking speaks to you, which is kind of a funny statement to say, but what is it, that jumps out at you for yourself or maybe for others? Brand recognition, thought leadership. Yes, that's absolutely great there. and I like to talk. I think that's very true. People would see who I am. So visibility, you learn by preparing something to present. Oh, totally. Opportunity to support, encourage, and inspire a broader audience. Oh, all of these are absolutely spot on. And this is really what I want you, or I invite you to anchor into your reasons that resonate with you. Because again, if I was teaching Facebook ad strategy and that's not your cup of tea, that's not a right strategy if it doesn't feel good and inspiring to you. So some of the other reasons, many of which I saw here that were shared, is, it positions you as a leader, as a thought leader. You develop your confidence. When I first started speaking to grow my business, I didn't even have a clear plan on what I was going to say a lot of the time, but I was building my confidence. And truth be told, my confidence was sheerly built by the fact that I didn't die, because I thought I might die if I was speaking in front of that group. And then I realized, hey, look, I didn't die. So, I can keep doing this. And then I started to actually see it can be fun. So you get to expand your reach, build your visibility. You also get to practice your messaging. I remember a 3-day event that I shared, or that I hosted several years ago. And I talked about how your growth doesn't have to be incremental. And it was almost, we probably had 100 people in the room, but it was almost like everybody was like, yes, that's really resonates with me. And it was just amazing, the almost physical response some people had. And I said, okay, that's messaging I'm going to stick with, because it really resonated with the individuals in the room. It also creates energy. So whether you're thinking about posting on LinkedIn, or you're sharing with a colleague or a friend that you're doing this thing, marketing is energy. And I can't tell you how many times too I've shared, speaking at ICF, High Country chapter, and then people will see that and they'll say, oh, I remember I'm supposed to reach out to Krista and talk to her about working together. So it kind of creates what I call this halo effect, even for people that aren't able to be at your presentation. You stand out. Most coaches speak, and I really want you to hear this, they speak to educate, but they don't speak to activate. So they're very busy in the space, and I made this mistake too, of really educating everybody, but not necessarily activating them. And that's two different spaces to be able to speak and get clients versus speak and make people feel, even though you don't intend to, feel like they just got everything they could ever need about, having that relationship or how you help clients. The other piece that I love is that it's controllable. You can host an event tomorrow if you wanted to. You could reach out and say, hey, I want to speak for your group. And you could do that and get booked 5 times, next month, if that spoke to you. It's also, even though I know I'm cutting edge, finally getting my Max today, or, a couple of weeks ago, it's low tech and it's easy to do. You can literally do it from your house. You can do it, in someone else's living room, or you can do it in front of 8,000 people if that's what calls you. So it doesn't have to be something that's highly complicated unless that kind of stuff excites you. So as we look at this, and I'm going to ask you in a second to share which one of these, if any of these resonate with you, that you're like, okay, like this gentleman on the screen. Oh, Krista, you were talking about me right there. Common mistakes we see with coaches when they're building their business through speaking. And I'm sharing all these because I made every single one of them. So I'm not positioning myself as, oh, I did it perfect the first time, because I didn't. That's how I learned about these. The first one is you're not doing an AAR. That's what we called it in corporate, an after action review. So this is essentially where you say, this is what went great. This is what didn't go great. And this is what I want to do different next time. And actually taking the time to take that out of your brain and put it on paper. So guess what? You actually learn and implement. And each time you're speaking, you're getting better. You're honing your message. You're improving your call to action. Most of the time, very honestly, we think this is all great to keep in our head. And while it is great to keep in there, it makes us feel overwhelmed, and we very honestly will forget the stuff. So I invite you to look for a way, whether a notebook, and right after you speak, you could do this in, less than a minute, probably. The other mistake I want to bring your attention to is nothing happens after the event. So it's very much like you showed up, you gave content, and then there was no follow-up afterwards. And so this is whether you're hosting or someone else, a lot of times you can build that in or find a way to incorporate value afterwards. I lovingly call it PSing, the call to action. And this is when someone, and we've all done this, I think, or at least I know I did this, or we've seen someone do it at least, where they do this great presentation. You might even be excited to hear more. And then it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, if you want to connect with me, here's my LinkedIn profile, or scan this link and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So that's what I call PSing, the call to action. In the process we teach about speaking to convert, it's actually 6 steps just for the talk itself. And 2 of those steps are the call to action. And it's not saying that you're up there, selling for, I guess, what would that be? I don't even know what percentage. It's Friday brain. So you're not necessarily selling 2 out of 6% of the time, but it's that important, those steps and being intentional about it. So most people do either drive-by or PS, call to action, and then you're really letting your audience down because they don't know how to or what they can do next with you. And this is a mistake that I made for a long time too, is not following a proven framework that converts. So I used to think I just get up and share my genius and then it worked, and that's great sometimes. But if you really want to get consistent results and you're really looking at your business as a CEO, then you're going to say, okay, I want a process that converts. I want a framework that I can follow to make sure I hit all the points and lead people through that emotional arc. So they come to the end of the conversation and say, okay, I'm ready for a call, or I'm ready for signing up for your workshop, whatever your next step invitation is. And then I saved the best for last here, and I hinted about this a few minutes ago, is that a common thing people do when they're speaking is they overeducate. So it's like, here are my 6 steps. I'm going to give you 14, hours of content shoved into 45 minutes, and you're going to walk away knowing exactly and everything you ever need to do to have a better relationship, to improve your finances. And it's actually a disservice to them to not look at, okay, how do I educate and activate? So what I'm saying here is helping them to see and feel the energy of where they want to be, and also feel the discomfort of staying in the same place. And you can do that through stories. There's multiple ways and layers of how you can do this and incorporate it. And we work with clients extensively on this, but really thinking through, is that maybe a place where you could look into your own speaking and say, where am I activating and where am I educating? Or, am I doing both in a way that feels good and actually gets people to take action at the end? Okay, so I'm going to grab another drink, and I would love to hear in the chat, which of these mistakes jumps out at you as the most, as a place where you'd like to look, or, just think about how it could look different for you if you shifted one of these things. We will see here. I'll see if anybody's shared, and I can always do my dance too. The kids tell me not to dance on Zoom, but they're at school, so they can't. So that may or may not be good for you guys. So let's see. Okay, I'm going to read a few of these. These are great. Overeducating, PSing the call to action, following a framework, overeducating framework, not activating, PSing the call to action. Okay, so I'm seeing big trends here. Call to actions and overeducating. Yeah. So we've got a PSers and overeducators. It looks like here is kind of what the trend is. All of them to an extent, but definitely the last one. I love the question of where am I educating and where am I activating? It's a whole different way of looking at your talk too, and thinking of it really as a marketing opportunity. And something that I felt wildly uncomfortable about when I first started is that good marketing creates tension. And not like they're going to cry and you're going to say your world's over and, Becky, you're doomed if you don't do X, Y, and Z. But instead, it's helping them to feel the discomfort of not taking action. Because guess what? As humans, if we don't feel discomfort at least a little bit, we're going to be in the same place in 6 months, which is fine if we are happy where we are. But most of the time, people are at your talk, they're at my talk, they're at anybody's talk because they want something to be different. So as we look at that, we are going to go through the 6 steps here of what I call the speak to profit model. And I'm going to just touch on each one real quick. We'll go spend a little bit of time in each of these. And what I'm going to ask you to do with each of these 2 when we go through is to rate yourself, just self-rating on a scale of 1 to 10. So then at the end, we can get into a group for at least a few minutes and say, okay, this is my biggest opportunity based on how I rated myself. There's no judgment, no numbers right or wrong. It's all about where you are in your journey. So as we just look at this quickly, the inner game is that, how are you showing up? What is your mindset? And in a nutshell, I believe energy follows energy. So if you have crap energy, or you have energy of, well, I'm not going to get clients from this, guess what? You're going to create that exact result. And also when you show up as a CEO of a multi-million-dollar business, whatever your goal is, and you provide value, you also don't worry about, or you don't overeducate, your results are drastically different. So knowing that, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. Then we look at how to position yourself as an expert. And it's not just getting up there and saying, hey, I'm an expert, but really there are some strategic ways to do that. And it's very important to do if you want people to even lean in and be able to hear what you're sharing. Then the getting booked system, which is super important. And what I really love about the getting booked system is that this is no longer is it okay for you to sit and wait for someone to say, hey, Krista, or hey, Jen, I'm ready for you to come and speak. We actually get to lead our business. We get to reach out, just like this presentation today. Our team reached out and connected with Becky and Jen and said, hey, are you looking for a speaker? Can we offer value? And then they had an opportunity where we could step in. So you get to go first rather than waiting for someone else to go first, which is where people get stuck a lot. Then, and I want you to notice this is the 4th part that we're looking at here, is content that converts. So this is that 6-step framework that I was talking about earlier, that really having that emotional arc for your content that serves your audience, gives immense value, and activates them so they say, I want to do that next thing. Then the really cool thing about this model, of course, I think it's cool because I made it up, but the really cool thing about this model is that it doesn't stop when the talk stops. We're not just doing the talk. This is about before. This is about getting on the stage. This is about, virtual or in person. But then we have powerful sales conversations. So making sure, one, you feel in good energy around your offer, around sales. Many times coaches will say they hate sales, or I've heard that many times. So it's finding a way that you can do sales in a way that feels good and congruent to you. And then inviting them into an aligned transformational coaching program. We really work on with our clients creating high ticket offers. And yes, it's very important to be able to say, I stand in alignment with this investment level and I see the value delivered, because, if you just said it's $1 million to work with me for an hour and you don't feel aligned with that, that's not going to work. You're probably not going to have many people signed up. So we want it to be high ticket and also high impact at that next stage. So you literally get excited when someone says, yes, I'm ready to work with you. Okay. So now that you have that and you've got that on your page, we're going to look at quickly what I call the inner game, or, for the coaching space, we might even look at it just as your mindset around this. And so if you had to guess, and I would love to see this in the chat, why do you think, whether this relates to you specifically or other people that you know in the coaching space, why aren't more coaches speaking regularly? Because this is available to all of us. There's more than enough opportunities out there, but there's a lot of people who want to have an important message, but they're not doing it. So what would you say would be some of the and I'll say quote unquote reasons that prevent coaches from speaking maybe 2 or 3 times a month? Fear, fear of speaking or don't feel qualified. It's not a strength. Or if they don't have a desire, they're not confident in their message. They don't believe they have something important to say. Oh, that's a big one. Imposter syndrome. They don't know how to find opportunities, unaware of opportunities. Absolutely. Or I like that, lazy too, which is, I mean, and that's very true. It does take work to lead our business. It does take work to say, I'm going to reach out, and some people are going to say no. Some people are not going to respond, or I see the comment too of being afraid. So you absolutely hit the nail on the head with, all the millions of fears that can exist, and it can feel complicated. I know for me, when I started speaking to grow my business, I spoke a lot and I didn't get clients. And I would just get frustrated because I thought, all this energy, all this time, and I'm not seeing, positive results in my business. And so that frustration can really carry over as well when you don't have a way to do this. And, I saw all these comments of, it might be a limiting belief, imposter syndrome. You actually can, it's interesting. I would prove my story of how speaking didn't work when I first started, because I was like, look, I still didn't get clients. I'm like, why am I arguing for what I don't want here? But we really can prove the story that we go into that speaking presentation with. And when you do have your energy, your inner game aligned, you're going to notice that you have inspiring energy that's contagious. You show up authentically, which is like your shoulders can go down. You don't have to put on this song and dance. You create growth, and you have fun, and you create results. How cool is that? It's not perfect results, but it's, let's see. And I see a couple comments on here, so I'll have to go back and look at this a little bit more too, make sure I'm not missing anything. But it really is about you showing up, speaking in a way that you're energized about it, and your audience is going to say, wow, Jen, Becky, Wendy, I see Kimberly on the screen, I just want to talk to you because of your energy. How I commented even on Becky's energy earlier when we started. That's something that I guarantee everybody is like, yeah, Becky has amazing energy, and that's attractive to our clients. And we don't do it just because it's attractive to our clients, but it does help us to not only show up better, but create better, more impactful presentations to work with our clients. The second piece that we're going to look at, and actually before we go into expert positioning, I'm going to ask you to rate yourself on your paper on a scale of 1 to 10 with how you would say that you're showing up with your inner game as it relates to speaking. Is it that, oh my gosh, I've got a clear message, I know how to speak in a way that converts, I'm reaching out regularly, I am all in, watch out world, I'm coming, as a 10? Or maybe it's a 1, which is, well, crap, I don't really know how to do this. And I'm kind of half a toe in, most of the, or 1 toe in, 4 toes out kind of thing. And no number is wrong. It's just you noticing where you are, so we can look at and find the opportunities to really grow your business. So I see a 7, a 10, a 1. Fantastic. All these numbers are absolutely perfect. It's like Strengths Finder. When you do it, they're like, no matter which ones you get, they're perfect. So the cool thing is that you get to look at yourself and your rating. And at the end, then we'll say, okay, where are your biggest opportunities to focus based on how you scored yourself? And so a few more that I'm seeing here, 4, 4, 1, a 7. Okay, so we've got, across the board, which is absolutely fantastic. So then, and what I'll encourage you to do after our time together today is look at where you are, whatever your self-rating is, and look at where you want to be in 90 days. If you're 1, do you want to be a 2? Do you want to be a 4? What feels good to you? And I like to say a doable stretch. So you can just put that on your paper as, okay, I'd like to move from a 7 to, 7.5, maybe, whatever, or 7 to a 10, whatever feels good to you. So expert positioning is incredibly important. And this is another thing that people will skip over, because it to them can feel like, oh my gosh, I'm bragging. And oh my gosh, they already read that, or they already heard that. But what I want you to think about with your expert positioning is How can you share your story, your process, your experience in a way that connects to your ideal client, that helps them to see maybe through your story that what they want is possible, what they want to achieve? You're living proof that they can do it too. And now that we're back in, in person speaking for a lot of events, and I know we were talking about earlier how a lot of people have said, no, I want to stay virtual, which is great too, is that we work with our clients and actually help them create what I call a power packet that's sitting on the seat when you're speaking in person that actually positions you before you even take the stage. So think about what can you do so it's not, oh, who's Krista Martin up here? It might be, maybe a power packet that's sitting on their chair. It could be that you're speaking at a conference and you're offering a webinar ahead of time or a free resource. Think about how you can create value and connect even before you're on the stage. And when you are looking at your credibility, this is where we're really mapping out your story, your expertise, and your differentiators. This also feels good for you to be able to say, guess what? I'm different than the next coach because of this. And there's lots of great coaches, which we all know and love. But when we don't take the time to get clear on what really matters to our ideal client and sharing our story in a way that's compelling, we're actually doing a disservice, because our clients lean in, our potential clients do, and they say, oh, I see myself, through that person. A lot of times we work with people that are corporate escapees, and they're like, Krista, I resonated with you because you're a corporate escapee, and if you can do it, I want to prove I can do it too. Or they say we have these similarities. And so it's not like sharing that repels people who haven't been in corporate, but your right fit people are going to find those nuggets and really attach to that. And so as you're thinking about this for yourself, without going into this really deeply, if you, and we're going to play a little bit of mind game here, if you were your ideal client, what would be most important, or what would you love to know about you before hiring you? So I know that kind of is like a mindset Jedi trick, but I'll give you an example. One of my clients a couple of years ago was a relationship coach. And she shared that in our conversation. She said, I asked her, I said, what are you not sharing when you're telling your story? And she said, well, I got a divorce a couple of years ago. And I said, okay, well, how is that being a disservice to your potential clients by not sharing that? She had all kinds of stories about how it made her not a good relationship coach, and people might think A, B, or C, but we actually saw it as a way that she could relate to people. They could see and grow and learn through her. And it wasn't actually something that was wrong, that it was actually a very valuable part of her story, and it actually humanized her, that she wasn't like born perfect, that, hey, guess what? Things happened in my relationships, and now I've found, this way to do relationships better. So think about first question is to jot down, what are you not sharing from your past experience that would be valuable? And then what would you most want to know if you were your ideal client? So, I didn't used to share that I have my MBA in marketing, and I thought, well, hello, if I hire a business coach, I want them to know marketing. It's great. And so I thought, well, that was pre-coaching, so I felt like that was a different part of me, but it actually is a place that gives credibility to people that say, okay, yes, we want to know the theory, but we also want to know, the implementation of it too. So a lot of times we're keeping our own self back from sharing those things. So I'd love to hear in the chat really quick, if there's something that's popping up for you that you want to look into in your story that maybe you haven't shared. It might be you've been in a leadership position and you're coaching leaders now, and you thought, well, that doesn't resonate, or that doesn't matter, or that's not part of my story, or not that it's not part of your story, not part of my an important part of my story. And it may, I know sometimes too, as we're processors, it takes a little bit for these ideas to come up, but see how you can bring more of your true self and share that in your story. When you aren't working on this, or you aren't clear and you don't take the time to strategically stand out, you blend in with everybody else. Krista is the same as the next coach, is the same as the next coach. And it feels hard because you're really feeling like you're pushing rather than allowing people, the right fit people, to be attracted to your story and to be attracted to your message. So what we're going to look at now is I'm going to give you a second to share in the comments where you would rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 with your expert positioning. And so 10 is, I'm really talking about my differentiators. I'm clear on my story and how to, tell that in a way that connects to my audience. And I do that every time I speak. I don't just assume they know. Or 1 is, this is something that I'm going to start focusing on. I haven't really given it enough attention yet, so I'm going to start looking there. And I see a 3, it's the magic number, a 4, a differentiator. Okay, and 6, 3, 7, 6. Oh, all fantastic numbers, and another 6. Fabulous. Okay, so make sure you write this on your paper too, because it'll be helpful at the end where you can see how you've scored yourself. And 3 and 3. Awesome. Great, great. The next piece that we're going to look at here is the most fun of all. And I say that as a person who loves research. I love digging. I love spreadsheets. And I know that's not everybody's favorite, so it's okay if you don't love it as much. But really, you want to have, when you're leading your business, you have a way you get booked. It's not I'm going to wait and just see who reaches out to me. That's when we're reactive in our business. And it also creates those huge feast or famine cycles, because sometimes people send referrals, sometimes they reach out to speak. But when we're proactive in leading our business, we can say, I want 3 speaking engagements a month, or whatever your goal is. That year that we grew from 40 to 220 in 12 months, I tasked myself with at least doing 2 webinars to someone else's group of coaches each month. And I said, that's my mission. And I'm like, I was going to say like a dog with a sock in its mouth. I can be very, very focused, but it was me. And what I want you to hear in that is, 1, I was leveraging other people's groups. So if you don't have a big community already, totally fine. You can still create this growth. But thinking about how do you lead, and what would be, a number of speaking engagements each month, whether virtual or in person, that you're hosting or someone else is hosting, that would lead to big momentum in your business. In a nutshell, and there's multiple steps under each of these steps. But really we teach, and we're actually hosting a workshop that's free in a couple weeks where we'll go more in depth into this. But what I want you to know is there's a process to building out your leads list, and then the magic one being number 5 on there as well. But you want to really get clear at the beginning and make sure we're starting from that clean slate of, who is your person? Where is your person? Who's gathering your person? What type of speaking do you want to do? Is it a sponsorship, a webinar? What is the goal of what you're doing? Then we actually build your leads list. And this is, again, where my spreadsheet self gets excited, but looking at, where are other people gathering your ideal clients in groups where you can speak. So think about here how I'm speaking with, it's really funny how I'm speaking about speaking and to the ICF. So this is like an actual example of how it's worked. Is I said, okay, who gathers my person? I said, well, the ICF gathers my person. They gather my person in lots of events across the US, across the world. So what if I found a way to offer value to their members? So that's me reaching out, and that would be considered a lead, if you wanted to put it that way, as each of the ICF chapters. There's a million groups that gather coaches. So whether you're looking at coaches, at executives, whoever your person is, your ideal client, they are being gathered by someone else, whether it's someone on Facebook, it could be an association, it could be the yoga studio, or, something down the road. I've had clients do vision board workshops with at a yoga studio, and they offered to present to their people for half a day for a year visioning kind of kickoff session. And they loved it because it was just for their members. And they all knew each other. So they brought all their pictures, and they got, challenged each other to go big. And then they got clients out of it. So there's a way to find that audience. Then you want to prepare to connect. So what are your topics? There's a way to come up with topics that actually connect with your ideal person and repel your non-ideal person. You want to, maybe you want a speaker one sheet, but it's really important to think about who are these people? How are we going to reach out to them? Then to have an engagement strategy, which can sound complicated, but one of the things we'll give our clients is email script samples of what we've done to reach out. But it actually, the key I want you to see is that it's a process. It's not just a reach out. It's not, oh, well, I don't like Becky anymore because she didn't respond to me immediately. And I'm kidding, I'm making this up. But it's, oh, I reached out to Becky. Maybe she's busy. So here would be a follow-up message to Becky, or here would be a way I connect on LinkedIn. So coming up with that actual process, because most people won't build it in the moment, but when you have it mapped out, it's easy to do. I would bribe myself when I was doing this on my own before having team help with it, to go to Starbucks. I would get my favorite latte and at least one cake pop, sometimes two. And I would sit and work through my spreadsheet and follow up and do that. But that was the way I just bribed myself to be able to go and do this work. And then when I had it all mapped out, it was easy, rather than saying, well, now I got to figure out what to say to Becky next, or how do I follow up? That takes a lot more energy than coming up with a plan. And then you use that plan that maybe you were going to use with Becky. Maybe she responded right away. Well, great. This becomes our template for outreach to other people. And then the magic F word that we all love, which is follow up. This is where you either get booked or you don't. And 90% of the people you're going to reach out to, at least 90%, aren't going to respond the first time. And so really detaching any meaning from that and being able to say, guess what? That follow-up isn't personal. Guess what? They might have an email inbox like you and I that gets 80,000 emails, and they might have had the best intention. So part of this too, and even with engagement strategy, is you want to make sure your messages are crafted really intentionally so they get responses, versus doing the data dump, of, hi, I'm Krista Martin. I was born in Columbia, Missouri, and here's all my things. And then people are like, oh, okay, I'm not going to respond to that because I got to go back and read that. But you can do this thing called micro asks that really, really keeps the conversation moving. When you have your getting booked strategy in place, you're in control. You're leading your business. You feel confident because this becomes predictable. Just like I said, I task myself with 2 a month in front of other people's groups of coaches. And you don't feel stressed because you know what to say when you've got your conversation mapped out. And we still tweak ours today and say, oh, that's working, that isn't working. When you don't have this, you'll notice that you're saying things like, Krista, I feel frustrated. I feel like I'm wasting my time and energy. And you are, honestly, because you're just kind of throwing it out once in a while and not following up. You're getting inconsistent results, and you miss out on opportunities and may even want to give up. So before we go to the next piece, I would love to hear where everybody rates themselves on this, as a 10 being, I'm rock solid. I feel so good about my getting booked strategy, and a 1 of, okay, there's an area for me to focus on now. I know that, I don't have this plan in place, so I'm going to come up with my getting booked strategy, all the pieces. And so I see that's the first 0 I've seen. I see a 3, a 0, 1, 2, 2, 3. Awesome. And again, one of the things I love to do with my own business and also with clients is we look for things that aren't quite where we want them to be in our business, not because we want to say, oh, look, this is terrible, I'm, worthless or any of that, but instead we say, now we know exactly where to focus our energy. Now I know where, instead of saying, I don't know what to do. Well, look, I'm a 2 on this. Okay, now I know what to do, Krista. I want to move that 2 to a 4. So I'm going to invest time and energy on that, which is great. All right. So one of my favorite parts, where most people start, but we're just getting to it on step 4 of this, is content that converts. And so this is making sure that you have people that are connected to you on 3 different levels. And so they have connection with you. You want them to connect with others, and you also want them to connect with the content. So being really intentional in all of your talks that you're building in those opportunities. And when you do this in a process, I've talked about, we have 6 steps that we teach people, but whatever your framework is, you're going to realize that when you're doing this intentionally, you're activating them instead of only educating. Like I saw quite a few people say earlier, you feel confident because hey, I've got a framework that works versus I hope this works. I just made it up last night. And every time you speak, you at least get one client. You get clients saying yes, or people saying, I want to find out more about your offers. How can we work together? Which completely shifts your energy versus, okay, or as we used to say in pharmaceutical sales, I showed up and throwed up, which I'm kidding, meaning like you just dumped everything on them, but you do it in a really intentional way that inspires people to take action. And the cool thing is too, is that your audience is actually inspired and excited to hear your offer, whatever that is. If it's a sales call, if it's to buy your book, if it's whatever, they're excited because you've taken them through that emotional arc. When you don't take them through this emotional arc, we've all either attended or seen, or maybe even led. I know I've had somewhere I'm like, wow, I feel like everybody's falling asleep here. This is really great, isn't it? And so this is kind of the result of what happens when you aren't intentional about having a framework that gets results. So we are going to take a second here and we're going to do some self-rating again. This is like one of my favorite things besides spreadsheets is self-rating. It's just super fun. Okay, so look at yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10 being, I am confident I've got a process for content that converts. I feel good when I'm standing in front of a room because I know and I can rely on that process. And a 1 would be, wow, I've been sharing my message, but not in an intentional way or not in a way that really resonates and inspires people to get into action. Okay, so 1, 2, 2, beautiful. Okay, lots of really good stuff here. An 8, awesome. And one of the things I forgot to mention too, that I'll touch on just real quickly is as we build out this content, we want to make sure, like when we work with clients, we'll help them get clear on what the problems are that their coaching helps to solve. So one of the problems our coaching helps to solve, for example, is people speaking but not getting clients. So we look at some of the problems your coaching helps to solve, and I say that with air quotes, and then we pick a topic that resonates with that or ties into that. So for example, I'm not going to get up and speak about how to blog your way to success. I think blogging is great, but we don't necessarily teach our clients that and work with them on that. So it would be silly for me to get up and talk about blogging for coaching success, because while some people do that and it's great, that's not what we do. And so you'll know when you're speaking about a problem that you work on with your clients, you're going to attract people that are trying to solve that problem that are likely your right fit people. Tell me, and this is something we work on and we go multiple revisions through. So if you're like, Krista, I'm not quite getting this, that's okay. I don't want you to feel like you're doing anything wrong because it's a multi-layered process, but just to start at least thinking of how can you speak about topics that are really part of the work that you do with your clients, and we flip it into a way that really gives value and attracts your right people. For example, nobody would come to this, or most coaches wouldn't come to this if they weren't interested in learning how to speak to grow their business. Some might say, I just want some credits, which I totally get that too. But, and most of the time we attend talks that answer a problem we're working on. And then I want to go through these next ones kind of quickly so we can have a few minutes to break into a group here, is thinking through powerful sales conversations is the next. Oh, wait, yeah, we already did the rating. Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself as I'm like, we can't miss an opportunity to self-rate ourselves. Okay. So powerful sales conversations. This is a key part. This is the magic. This is where unpaid speaking engagements turn to paid speaking engagements. I spoke at ICF Global. I guess it was, I don't know, not this last one. I couldn't go to that one, but the one before that, whenever that was. And it was unpaid. So I didn't get paid a penny. but I tracked over $85,000 in clients to that talk. So, and did it all happen immediately? No. There were some people that, followed me for a while, whatever. We started working together later. But what I want you to know is I don't know many people who make $85,000 for a paid speaking engagement. I'm sure there's some. And I love those people. They're awesome. But you can actually make more when you speak and have that be part of your process to invite people to the next steps conversation with you, whatever that looks like. And then when you're excited about your offers, people can't help but say yes and be excited about that. So really what I want to invite you to look at is, do you feel like you have an authentic, measurable, and I feel like a broken record as I say this, but this is another love language of mine, is a process, because it makes it so we're not winging it. We're not making it up each time. Is really looking at, do you have a sales conversation process that you feel good about? Because otherwise, if, like I see Kimberly or Wendy on the screen here, if we're saying, yes, I'm ready to grow my business, I want 3 to 5 new clients every time I speak, we say that, but then we think, ooh, but I don't really want to have a sales call. What are we doing? We're putting out that chaotic energy of, I want it, just kidding, not if I have to do this. And that chaotic energy creates chaotic results. So if you're saying, Krista, sales is something I don't feel very good about, we again teach our clients a process that they can take and make their own, but find a process, find a framework, find something that you can do so that you feel good about it. Ours is coach-like, but there's many different ways, I'm sure, to be able to do this, but find a way that you can then also evaluate yourself and say, wow, that client closed. What did I do different? What was so great about, or that call felt really great. Cool. What did I do different in this call versus the call I had last week? So really making sure this is an important, essential part of the process of speaking to fill your programs. When you don't have this in place and you're kind of doing that chaotic energy dance, it reinforces the old story. Look, Krista, you're never going to, have this business that you dream about. You'll be burned out because you're, again, just burning the energy all the time and you're doing all the work, but not getting the clients. So before we jump into the last step that we'll look at, let's do a quick self-rating. And where would you say you fall on that scale of 1 to 10? With 10 being, I'll say a sales magnet because I love sales. I've got a process that feels good to me. And a 1 would be, well, I do it if I really have to. And I think this is a place where I can look at my relationship with the sales conversation, maybe even look at my relationship with sales. And a place I like to look with clients too is when we start this journey of work is to even look at one of your top values. I see a couple 1s and 2s and a 5. Look at your top values and ask yourself, maybe it's love. What does it look like to do sales with love? What does it look like to do authentic sales? And just play with that question and your ideas will come up, because that's where the resistance is we're feeling like sales is outside of our values as a person. So looking for that and finding that. Okay. And it looks like somebody's ringing my doorbell now. I don't know if you heard that, and the dog will probably bark. So that's always great antics for any speaking engagement. We'll just say that too. So the last piece that we'll look at is this, I call it high ticket, high impact, or high ticket, high transformation coaching programs. And this is where you are literally doing your happy dance for your client when they say yes to working with you. Not because, oh, that's money in my bank account, but, oh my gosh, that now, like, all these things are possible for them. You've really intentionally designed it to help them get results where you're excited about it. And when you're thinking about program design, and we could do a whole month on this as well. And there goes the dog. So he gets real excited about program design. We'll just say that. So if you hear him, he's like, don't forget to tell him some of the things you want to think about. And I know some people do coaching, some people do consulting, some people do, like we do, I would say coach consulting, which is kind of a mix of each. You want to think about things like the access. What is the access to you that they get? We recently, I guess it was about 6 months ago, changed it so all our clients get Voxer access to me, which is messenger access. So literally they can ask me a question and say, hey, Krista, I want to hire the person. How do I think about it? The reason though, and I want you to hear this, that we did that is because we saw a challenge our client has, which is many times making that decision. They get stuck because they haven't made that decision before. So what I asked myself was, how do I help our clients through the program, through the offering, to make those decisions so they don't get stuck? Because I know when they make decisions, they get results, they get clients. So I hope that kind of makes sense of like how I thought through it. So think about what problems or challenges your clients have. How does that impact the access? You may have training that you give. We do implementation labs several times, at least once a month, where we get together and create your action guide that you give at your talk, or your proven framework that you work your clients through. You want to think about the length of time. Do they get feedback anywhere? We've do a thing called content review every other week, and I lead that. And it's where basically you submit your talk and I'll give you consulting feedback on it. Because that's another thing our client said, hey, we're building this, but we don't know if it's, good, bad, or ugly. Can you at least tell me, Krista, you're way off, or Krista, you're right on target. And you may or may not want to create community. That's one thing I found. Our clients' coaches love coaches. They love hanging out with each other. So that's important to my clients. It may not be to yours. So the magic question that I want to give you is that, to ask yourself, how can you most quickly help your person, your ideal client, get from where they are to where they want to be? So think about that. And I'm actually going to give you another question to think about, is what is not currently being offered to my client that, if it was, would create huge results. That's why we started doing implementation labs, because we thought people would say, hey, I love learning, but they didn't actually do it, or they didn't know how to do it. So we'd say, we're going to get together in a big group call, and we're going to do this, and we're going to get stuck together, and then we're going to get unstuck. And that was something that came out of asking in a typical coaching program. That's not necessarily something you have. So that's why we created that. And when you have a program that you're really excited about, or excuse me, I'll flip this. When you don't have one that you're excited about, you'll notice you're saying things like, Krista, my clients are getting inconsistent results. Your clients aren't renewing for another term. You're getting few referrals, and you might even have doubt or imposter syndrome because you're feeling like, well, people are kind of sometimes sort of getting results, but I don't really know. And then now too, it's great. The yard people are here. So I don't know if you can hear that too. It's like everything all at once. Okay, great. I love that you can't hear that. But then the other piece is when you're really excited about your best-in-class offer, your best-in-class program, your program stands out in the market, and you serve more deeply because you're not only doing what you maybe thought you could do. You're going that step further to say, what are the other things? Like, I feel like, Becky, you had at one point, you might have shared that I think there was a checklist or some kind of training you did on helping moms to, and I'm not even saying it right as I try to remember it, but you were helping people to use Trello maybe, or something that was like a really awesome tool that is something that most coaches don't include with their programs. But it's so thinking outside of the box is where you'll find your magic. And then really the magic from having this is, one, your clients get great results, but then you get referrals, renewals, and raving fans, the three R's. And so, I'm kind of skipping through a few things because I get, again, excited and could talk for weeks on this. But go ahead and rate yourself on your program design now, or your transformational, high ticket, high impact offer. 10 would be, I feel really great. Oh, Becky's got an 8. She's really excited. Lizzie's got a 3. Beautiful. And just where you are, so you'll be able to know where you want to focus and what would best serve you to focus on. Okay, I love it. We're getting like every number across the board here. You know what? This is the first place I've done self-rating where I didn't get someone that put a decimal in there. So I know probably now somebody will throw that in, but usually I get 4.286, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, there's always that one person that throws that in. All these numbers are great. So as we really think about this for you, and the Speak to Profit model, I want you to think about where are your biggest opportunities for creating big growth. And we've talked through a bunch of these today, and I'm looking at the timing, and I feel like, Becky, I may do this, and I'm just kind of looking at you to see if this works. I may do this verbally with everybody to have them share their biggest areas to focus on, just so we don't keep people from what's next, if that works okay. Okay, and this is also probably what not to do, is negotiate with the person coordinating while you're speaking, but thank you for your flex on that. And so my goal is that you complete today and you say, oh my gosh, I know 3 areas to focus on, not 6, because 6 won't happen, but 2, maybe 3 areas. And so as you look at your paper, share which of the 2 or 3 that stand out at you and you really want to make meaningful progress on in the next, say, 90 days. Like, which ones are you like, yep, I'm really going to work on these 3, or these 2 are the ones that'll maybe be I'm thinking of a domino, that kind of help the other ones fall down more quickly. Oh, great. Inner game, expert positioning, powerful sales conversations, sales and expert positioning. Fantastic. And know too that, just knowing these areas and giving yourself a chance to reflect on this is going to really give you your roadmap for Monday when you jump back in, or maybe this afternoon. You're going to know right where to focus. Okay, getting booked system. I say that a couple times. Sales conversations, getting booked, content that converts, sales and content, programs and booking. Okay, so we've really got a little bit of everything, I think, is what I'm seeing here, which is great. And inner game and getting booked. I'm at the start of my journey. Well, congratulations. That's an amazing place to be. And what a great thing that you're doing this work now to really see how you can serve more people. So absolutely fantastic. And I'll tell you, the inner game piece too is something that, as a person who's even been in business for a long time, who's been a coach for a long time, I feel like my inner game, my mindset is always an evolving process, because I'm always doing things I haven't done before. And those old stories show up. It's just the response and, kind of reaction time to it. So, as you think about your steps moving forward, I love that we have got some great action plans here. I wanted to share just a couple things that clients have shared through their experience of working and creating this plan in their business. And Shayna, who you see over here on the left, when she first came to us, had a couple coaching clients and was living mainly off her savings. As a result of learning how to speak to fill her coaching programs, she was now living 100% off her coaching business income. And that was a huge home run to her, to be able to say, I'm not always pulling from my savings. Mandy shared here how she had even spoken in her coaching, or spoken in her corporate role, but it was totally different when she was sharing messages that she was passionate about versus maybe a training type thing. So she had a 90-day goal of 300 people hearing her speak. And not coincidentally, that was also her largest revenue month. When she set that goal to be in front of that many people, then she created those results. And then with Jen as well, that she was celebrating an awesome week, her first ever one-day workshop, and celebrating another 5-figure month. And while, of course, I love dearly each of our clients, they are amazing people, but they don't have magical superpowers. And so if they can do it, if I can do it, I just want this to be proof that you can absolutely put this into practice as well in your business. So you might have showed up today for many different reasons. And it might be that, you are tired of trying to figure out every marketing trick or tactic that hits your inbox. That's exhausting. You might want to do more of what you love, which is this coaching thing, and less of what you don't love, which is figuring out marketing or funnels or blah, 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 whatever that is. You may even feel stuck and scattered because it's taking too long. And you're doing a little bit of everything, but don't really have that concrete flow of an actual process and system that's getting real results. And you know in your heart that you're meant to succeed. You know that if you're being honest. And you know that you're here to do really, really big things. The really great news that I have to share is that it doesn't have to be hard, and you don't have to do it alone. That's a story I told myself that kept me in a corporate job for a long time was, I have my MBA, I'm smart, I should be able to do this. And I thought, wait a second, I've never built a thriving coaching business. Maybe I could get help doing it and I don't have to figure it all out. And so if you're tired of it feeling like this lady, there are some days that still feel a little bit like this, but definitely fewer. You can really let that stress and frustration go and really feel like you've got this roadmap that you can trust and lean into and create real results in your business. So at the end of any talk we go to, any workshop, we always have two choices, and we can either keep doing things the way that we've been doing them, and that means we keep getting the results we've gotten, which is great for a lot of people. You know, say, I'm in a wonderful place, I'm fine if I'm here in 6 months. Fabulous. And that's also great if you are patient. I am a self-confessed, I used to be the president of the Impatient Club. That I would say that was where I spent a lot of my time. And so I opt for the other option. And that's where you'll see it. I put a star. That's my recommendation for you. If the feeling of, or you think about being in the same place in 6 months or a year with your same results in your business, and it makes you feel ill, then I invite you to say, okay, what new action am I going to take today? So that in 6 months, in a year, I can say, guess what? I made the decision that day. That was the turning point when I set myself on a new trajectory. And if you're noticing that you're in that second bucket and saying, Krista, I need to take new action, I have 2 free things you can take advantage of if they feel aligned for you. For those of you who are ready to go more quickly and you want to have a conversation and see if partnering together might be a right fit, I did open up 10 spots for no-cost strategy sessions. And usually this is done with a member of the team, but since we have an intimate group here today, I'd really rather, just have the calls one-on-one with you. And if you're interested in setting that up, you can apply for a conversation by going to makeyourmark.com/strategy session. You can see that on the screen. It's on your action guide as well. But there are 10 spots for coaches that are really ready to grow quickly. And then the other thing that I'm offering, that if you're here at this talk, I really feel like it's a no-brainer next step, is we have a free workshop that we're hosting. It's virtual. That is October 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And then we have got some bonus sessions we haven't told people about yet that will also be added on there. But we're going to teach the Speaking to Get Booked system. We're going to teach the framework for content that converts, how to get clear on the 4 problems you solve, come up with your magnetic message, everything that you need that we kind of went through fairly quickly today. We're going to actually go 3 layers deeper, totally free. It's on Zoom, and I like to say totally free and totally awesome. But the URL for that is makeyourmark.com and then SCP, which stands for Speak, Convert, and Profit. So the last thing is, I always get the question, can I do both? And the answer is yes. It's funny that's always like, what if, do I have to decide? I'm like, you can do both if that resonates with you. So what I'm going to do, since we went a little bit longer, and I appreciate your flex with, instead of jumping into breakout rooms, that we actually were able to come up with everybody's focus points in the chat. I invite you to also look at that and say, who else is working on this? Same thing that I mentioned that I can connect with. If you see someone else working on that Getting Booked system, maybe you reach out to them as well and say, hey, let's, be accountability team about that. Okay, I know I just did a whole bunch of blabbering, and I love the energy of the group. I've loved the responses, and I will turn it to Becky, and I'm happy to answer any questions too by email as well. If you want to send an email over to Krista@makeyourmark.com, happy to support further as well.
Thank you so much, Krista. Everybody, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate that. I'm dropping the links right now. I was trying to copy and paste in here, and now I've got too many too many things open. So one final reminder. So you will be getting a link to the survey to complete. If you want your resource development credits. And so just make sure that you are checking your email for that. We can take a few minutes and answer any questions, anything coming up while we still have Krista that you guys would like to ask.
Perfect. Yes. And there's nothing off limits. If you have a question that's maybe about your programs or your tickets or pricing, it's Friday, and I was going to say a free for all, but that almost sounds like it could get a little crazy, but any question, nothing's off limits. And I also understand if people are kind of cooked after going through a webinar too. All right, so I do see a question. Any advice for the introverted coach who prefers small groups to large crowds? Oh, I saw a couple of people shaking their hands and even shaking their heads or raising their hands as that is a really great question. And there's absolutely a way for you to share your message and do it in a way that is filling your program. So we'll work with clients a lot of times to even have them host maybe their own roundtable. If you think about like in corporate, they would have a roundtable a lot of times, or an executive. One of our clients who doesn't serve corporate, she called hers a circle of awesome women, is what hers was called. So it doesn't have to be just corporate, but you can create small containers. You can even think like this group here today wasn't like 8,000 people, but you can go, to associations or other groups that may gather people in regular cadence where you could speak. The other idea is we had a client and she worked with students post high school to help them decide what was going to be their best choice, if it was college or, something else, or technical school, or take some time off. And so she wanted to connect with the parents of those people. So she asked one of her favorite clients that she worked with, hey, would you host what she called a sip and chat? And it was the coolest idea. They had some wine and cheese. It was very informal. And it was this one of her best clients invited, I think, 5 or 6 women who had children that age that were interested. They had conversations, and she had, I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 clients that came from that. But there's a way to do it where you can do a smaller group or on Zoom, if that helps with the introversion as well, because I totally get that. And it can take a lot out of you, as I know it kind of surprises people that I'm mostly, I would say 75% introvert, and then a little, so I can activate my extrovert tendencies, but only in desperate situations, which I'm kidding about. But so tell me, Hannah, I hope that was helpful, or if that was along the lines of what you were thinking. Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So
that was great. Thank you. Yeah. I like the idea of focusing on smaller groups rather than putting my sights on like speaking at a conference, which would just be terrifying. There's many other opportunities out there. So I think you highlighted that.
Oh, great. That's awesome. And yeah, I think too, with any goals, if we feel like we're going to fall out of our chair and pass out, it's probably too big of a goal, or too big of a stretch. So I like to say, well, stretch, but not splatter, because it is good to challenge ourselves, but not so much that it feels uncomfortable. So I think that would be a great place. And before we know it, probably next year, you'll be like, Krista, I just spoke at a conference of 1,000 people. And it was like nothing, because I started small and got to where maybe that felt more aligned. So thank you for that question. Does anybody else have questions? I'm happy to entertain or do my little dance. That's not very good, but it works on a Friday afternoon. Okay. Well, I think if anything comes up too, feel free to, shoot over an email as well. I'm happy to be a resource. Because I know things will come up afterwards as well. But I hope to see you guys on our workshop in a couple of weeks too. That'll be a lot of fun.
Okay. Thank you so much again, Krista. Thank you for answering our questions. I am dropping the link to the survey in the chat. So if you don't want to wait for your email and you want to do the survey now, you can go ahead and grab that out of the chat right quick. And then stay tuned. We will have another program next month. And so be watching your email for registration to be coming out. And other than that, have a fabulous weekend. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Happy weekend.
Yes.
Thank you, Becky. Good to see you.
Hi, good to see you. Thanks, Jen, for being my backup.
Of course, happy to do so.
I was
It was
so glad we
wonderful.
didn't need to.
Yeah.
All right. Have a great
All
weekend.
right, you too.